Lindsay just told me that she's terrified, so we'll see how this goes. I don't know if everybody can hear me. If not, I'll just come table to table afterwards. But my name's Drew. For the ones that I haven't met yet, I am Lindsay's stepbrother. And I know Lindsay's really nervous because the thought of me having a microphone in my hand is fairly terrifying. So we'll try to keep this short and sweet. But when Lindsay called me, I guess it was about 8 or 9 months ago, to tell that Brent had proposed to her with a ring, a pickle, and a Christmas tree, we all got pretty excited. And being that biologically I'm an only child, I don't know what you're saying, Rick. Take it down. Take it down. It's good? It's good. Thank you. Thank you. Somebody tell Rick today's not about him. So on that note, being that I'm biologically an only child, when Lindsay called me and said she was engaged, I was quickly able to flip the situation in my mind and make this speech and this party completely about myself. And I started thinking about all the possibilities of hot air balloon rides and circus animals and maybe even choreographed dance. But my mom sat me down and she said, you know, Drew, this is the one day that's really not about you. And I'd appreciate it if you just calm down a little bit. So my speech is not about an exotic petting zoo or hot air balloon rides or all the fun we could be having about that. It's today is about Lindsay and Brett. Brent or Brett? Brent. 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 Is it an NT or a TT? Or being so far in Florida, it's tough. But I can tend to ramble a little bit at the Rambler wedding. I'd hate to do that, so I'm going to need some crowd participation, and by crowd, I mean the two of you. So, Lindsay, if you could take your right hand and put it on the table, that would help keep me on track. And at this time, I'm going to talk about my relationship with Lindsay before Brent. Lindsay and I have been stepbrother and stepsister for about 12 years now. Am I on the right track for the anniversary? Thanks. And it's really been a pretty cool dynamic relationship that we have, because while technically I have to go through a few steps of starting calling her my sister and then stepsister, and it's been a lot of fun to have such a good friend that I can call a sister at the same time. And I've known that this day is coming for a lot longer than I think many of us here, other than maybe Mary and Rick, because when Lindsay and I were 14 or 15 years old, we were really good at faking sick to stay home from school. And what we did on those days home from school was a little different. I would, at that time, Ian was away at college, and I would actually take joyrides in the Trailblazer, and I apologize for that. But everything was fine. We're fine. Mary, I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. But Lindsay would actually lay on the couch and act sick all day. And in hindsight, I was probably the only one faking sick, but Lindsay would lay on the couch and watch wedding planning shows at the age of 14 and 15, and right, Mary, you know, TLC and Oxygen. And I think in today's society, when we're really dedicated to something, we latch on to reality television. And that's why I knew that it was real. Moving on, if Brent, if you could put your right hand on. Brent and Lindsay met at Millersville University, and in the process of writing this speech and getting my thoughts together, I sent Lindsay a few questions. And one of them was, how did you guys meet? And Lindsay had a class with a few of the people that were in the bridal party, and apparently they hit it off right away, and they said, hey, why don't you come to lunch with us? And Brent was at that lunch, and apparently Lindsay ran off pretty quickly and didn't exactly finish her meal, and her explanation to me that was she was just smitten with Brett. As soon as she saw him, she goes, I gotta get out of here. Who is this guy? This is too much. And after a few years of dating, Lindsay got a dream job or what we thought was a dream job in Austin, Texas, and she moved. And because of that, Brent and Lindsay kind of said, hey, you know what? Let's part ways and see what happens. So, Lindsay, if you could put your hand back on the table, that'd be great. No, left hand. Okay. Now, the thought here, I didn't know they'd be sitting so far apart. The hands are supposed to be on top of each other, but we'll get there. So the job doesn't work out in Texas, and Lindsay moves back. And Lindsay and I had many a conversation about what was going on in Texas and Brent and her personal life and my personal life, and many a time over a cocktail in the Philadelphia airport after a family holiday. And a quote comes to mind that I'll probably butcher this, but it's something along the lines of, if you love something, set it free, and if it comes back, it was meant to be. And I really think that applies to Lindsay and Brent, because she ran off from the first lunch, and they got together and they said, you know what, let's try life on our own. And they came back and they realized that life was probably just a little bit better with the other. And as we all know, Lindsay is a beautiful and intelligent and smart and caring and devoted and passionate woman. And a woman like that deserves a loving and caring husband. And that's why I think Brent is so lucky in his timing that he got a ring on the finger before that husband showed up. So with that, I'll ask Brent to put his wedding hand on the table. And this is kind of like a cheesecake. It should go Lindsay's right hand, Brent's, then Lindsay's, then Brent's on top. And Brent, I want you to cherish this moment, because you have 200 people who care about you, who are witnessing you having the upper hand for what may be the last time. Congrats. I still have just a little bit more. I have one sister and one speech, so give me my time, Linz. So I live in Florida, and during my time there, I've had, well, just stop, Rick. I'm getting to the important part. I've had the privilege and the disaster of living with several females, and while I have not shared a life with any of them, I've had shared bills, and that makes me uniquely qualified to give Brent some advice. I'm almost done, I promise. Brent, the first is to be patient. And I was at your house the other night, and it's a beautiful home, but their kitchen is pretty small. And my point here is, be careful during breakfast. Because when Lindsay was about 14 or 15, she was on a summer trip with some friends, and she thought that she would be a great friend and cook everyone breakfast. So she cooked pancakes, but she didn't know what she was doing. She asked a friend of hers, how do I tell when these are done? And sarcastically, the friend said, you take them out of the pan, you toss them up against the wall, and if they stick, they're done, like a noodle. So Lindsay took about a dozen pancakes and threw them up against the wall. And Brent, you guys just don't have that floor space, so you should probably take care of the cereal in the morning. The second is, I think I speak for everyone that we're excited about this, and in the future, some little Brents and some little Lindsays running around. Not too soon, but I just want to promise you guys that I will always be the cool uncle in Florida with theme park passes and cabinets of sugar and fridges of soda. And if you'd like for them to come down, I promise I'll help you with that. And the last point, Brent, I think if you really want to go smoothly, and I've never been married, but from what I've heard, is it's really important for you guys to have a clear understanding of communication and letting each other know that you love each other, and spontaneously surprising each other, and maybe even having a dance party for no reason. But more importantly, Brent, I would encourage you that when you get back from the honeymoon, if you want things to go smoothly, and it's not my marriage, it's up to you, but I would sit my wife down, I'd look her square in the eyes, and I'd say, Lindsay, you're the boss. We're done. And finally, I know I've gone way too long, and I was supposed to start with this, and I'm going off the top, but I'd like, before I offer a cheers to my sister and Brent, I'd also like to offer a double cheers at the same time. First, I'd like to honor Dr. and Mrs. Lavelle, who are Lindsay's maternal grandparents. I don't know where you all are, but raise your hands. And also, I had the pleasure of, for a few years, of calling Lindsay's paternal grandmother my grandmother, and I never got the chance to meet Pop-Up Karens, but I know that if they were able to be here today, they'd be amongst the proudest in the room. So I'd also like to raise my glasses to Mom and Pop-Up. I love you guys, and cheers, and come visit in Florida. And I'm sorry this went so long, and I can't believe you interrupted me. So I'm done. Thank you.
Phew. Did we have any